Well, thank you for coming to this press conference on the Prime Minister's speech at the National Press Club today. I think the Prime Minister's speech can best be described as being all feathers and no meat. In some respects, it was a non-response to the Gonski review. Some would say that it was worse than no response at all, because the Prime Minister has continued the uncertainty surrounding school funding rather than ending that uncertainty with a certain government policy. The Prime Minister has done the opposite to what the Coalition has done. She's laid out their aspirations and plans and a non-response to the Gonski review. The Coalition, on the other hand, has a very clear policy for schools. We will index schools at 6%. That is $4.2 billion of new money over the next 4 years of the funding quadrennium. We will have a relentless focus on teacher quality, on a robust school curriculum and on principal autonomy. And we will address the inequity that currently exists in the funding of children with a disability. The sector, both the states, the territories, the Catholic sector and the independent schools, will be very disappointed with the Prime Minister's speech today. It was long on rhetoric, long on aspirations. The Prime Minister has left unanswered a number of very key questions. What is the indexation rate going to be for schools? How much money is the government going to put into a new school funding model? This goal of being in the top 5 countries in the world by 2025 leaves a number of questions unanswered. Is the Prime Minister seriously comparing Australia's performance in school education to that of Singapore, Shanghai or Hong Kong, that are city-states with very different challenges to the one Australia faces? Why aren't there intermediate tests along the way between now and 2025? And since the PISA testing starts again in 2025, essentially it takes 2 years to resolve it. Really, she's giving herself a 15-year gap before her promise of today is actually tested. We know we couldn't trust the Prime Minister to keep a promise not to introduce a carbon tax for one term, and yet she's expecting us to trust that she will deliver a promise for schools that lasts 3 terms from today. The Prime Minister also hasn't released the modelling. The sector needs the modelling the government is relying on to know if they are worse off or if they are better off. So the school hit list of 3,254 schools, including 2,300 public schools, is still very much alive today because the government has not released its modelling. In the Prime Minister's speech, she talks about a parent's capacity to contribute to the education of their children in the non-government school sector. This, by any other means, is a means test for parents of non-government schools to determine the funding that that school will attract. That is a significant departure from the current measure of how schools are funded. She talked about the school resourcing standard, a benchmark for all students, as though there isn't one now. Of course, we have the AGSRC, the average government school recurrent cost to educate a child. That is the current benchmark that the SES funding model relies on. The SES funding model is an objective test based on needs, based on the ABS data. Essentially, the Prime Minister is expecting us to believe a promise on the never-never. Now, parents expect a great deal more. Parents want to know what governments are going to do for their children today and tomorrow, not in 2020, not in 2025. There are children who haven't even been born yet that the Prime Minister is expecting us to believe that they will benefit from a policy that's being announced today that won't have its full effect until 2020 and won't be tested until 2025. So the Coalition is deeply disappointed with the Prime Minister's response. The sector will be deeply disappointed. As I said, this is an all feathers and no meat response. It is not a response to the Gonski review at all. In fact, the Gonski report is more detailed about what they believe should happen than the Prime Minister's response today.